Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about IE11. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, do you think that IE11 is holding everybody back? And the short answer is no, I don't think so. Well, the actual question in question was more of a bit of a story, but basically the subscriber asked if he should learn how to support and work in older browsers. In this case, IE11 is not still super old, but this question is a root question that I've taken a few times before. Because he had looked at the numbers, and apparently only 2.5% of the people that visit his company's website are actually on an old browser, and everybody else is on a modern tech stack. So he was wondering, should he actually account for that when he's building things, because he can't use things such as CSS Grid, for example. Now, I will raise my finger and I will say first and foremost that I don't think that you should use old browsers as an excuse to not learn how to actually work without certain tooling, because if there is a range to how we do work on the web, and sometimes you are working in a company where they actually do have to work with older browsers. And the reason is very simple, because sometimes it actually makes economic sense to do this, or you might be working for the government or something like that, where having something that is truly accessible for everybody is more important than working with the latest and trendiest tools. But I feel that it's unreasonable for us to basically say that, oh, like a company like Microsoft should somehow be responsible for how often their customers upgrade their browser. No, there's no other company that I know of, at least, where it is on the company's, it's the company's responsibility to force upgrades or to force people to buy new things. I mean, the automotive industry isn't forcing people to buy a new car when their old one gets so old that, you know, they kind of can't be safe on the roads anymore. I don't know how it is in your region, but here we actually have legislations where we check our cars at a certain frequency to make sure that it's still road safe. And if that fails, regardless of car, then that car is considered to not be safe anymore. And that is the symbiotic relationship right there that needs to happen, that happens everywhere else except for the web. Because on the web we have people who seem to believe that this entity is somehow different from other marketplaces. So the symbiotic relationship is very simple. It's so simple. The producers, the companies, they produce goods and services that are an improvement on the current state of affairs. The consumer, the customer, upgrades and buys new and pays for new goods and services when their needs evolve enough so that this is actually required. Now, that causes a range, and that range, or that spectrum of products and services and so forth, is something that needs to be maintained. It's not sane to have the idea that the producers of new goods and services has to support every single possible version of a product back to I don't know how long, just to be compliant with, or to just support the consumer's choice to never upgrade something. That's simply not, it's just not sustainable. To give you an example, do you think that people who are into, you know, traditional television sets, or like these old black and white television sets, do you think that, like, is the expectation that such a person can take their old TV set into a modern store or a modern electronics store and then buy parts or buy a remote control, if that is even possible, or get repairs or anything like that? No. There's no expectation that that should work. So why should there be an expectation that every single website should work for every single browser? The only time that makes sense is if the company that is producing the website can actually make a profit from it. This is the thing that I truly believe. You see, if you take a look at your traffic and you see that or you see at the browser distribution, you see that roughly, say, 2.5% of people are still on IE11. Now, if that percentage is in your traffic high enough so that you can actually convert enough people from just visiting your website to actually paying for something, then this makes a lot of sense. If you calculate that the salary cost and development cost and all of that stuff that it's going to take, and all the testing and all of this stuff, if all of that equals out, or somehow you can see that by just supporting IE11 as well, or even back into IE6 if you're going back really far, if you see that that is valuable to your company, then that's a good thing for your company then you should absolutely do this. Then the developers should adjust their workflow so that you don't use the most modern tools. You simply use the thing that will be backwards compatible until that browser version that you are looking at. And then pretty much you have then that's a sane thing, right? But to do that without if you see that this is not going to gain your company anything, then it's a much more saner choice to simply say that no, this is not, these people here who are using this browser, we calculate that it's cheaper for us to simply produce things that are right for the people who are upgrading their browsers, and we will simply ignore these customers because they represent such a small percentage of the total marketplace that it's simply not economically sustainable for us or feasible. It's a loss. It's wasteful for us pretty much to try to cater to them as well, because not every product that is designed for everybody. This doesn't happen anywhere else. But there are groups such as Mozilla and these different evangelists and people who go on tech talks and say that this should not be the case. But the funny part is that it's really only these groups and governments and things of this nature who aren't really competing as much fiercely in the open marketplace that seem to share this notion. And then of course you have the super companies such as Google and Facebook and like these companies where 2.5% is enough when we're talking about the volumes of traffic that they are pushing through to actually justify making sure that everything works in all the browsers as well. You just think about it. If you're a small-time business, then 2.5% might be like one person every month. For Google and Facebook, that's most likely tons and tons and tons of money that easily weighs up the cost of developing a product that actually is backwards compatible to a certain browser version. But even they have a number where they do a cutoff. I mean, are we gonna support browsers, or should we support Netscape? Should that also be in the equation? Because there might be some people who are still using it becomes silly, guys. And no other industry has this is even getting crazier and crazier. Some groups feel that there should be a legal obligation for people to have, accessibility involved into every website that is developed. Have you ever seen the automotive industry get a legal obligation to build cars for the blind? No, you have never seen that. As far as I know anyway. Maybe there are, maybe that is the case. I'm not stating that we shouldn't try to build the best products that are possible, but I'm stating that it comes down to return on investment for a company. A company is not a humanitarian organization. It is not, if they calculate that there is no gain in it for them, then I argue that there's a saner way to solve this problem with people who are in the niche or like the minority groups. And the sane way to solve this problem is to have companies who actually specialize in solving problems for the blind or solving problems for people who are on older browsers and so forth, produce alternative solutions. That is what is sustainable and sane, and actually probably even better. So what I want you to take away from this is that I believe that you should absolutely learn how to work without something like CSS Grid and so forth, because there is still a range of browsers out there today. But I feel that it's unfair to Microsoft and other companies such as Microsoft to blame them and say that, oh, IE is holding everybody back, you should take your responsibility and upgrade this. Because at the end of the day, their customers are their customers. They can't force this on their customers, because that's going to damage their relationship with their customer. It is the customer's responsibility to know, not to know, but to, at a fairly regular interval, upgrade their browser or upgrade their products if they want to, if they expect that they should be able to take part of all the new innovations that are coming out. That is a very natural symbiotic relationship. It's a mutual responsibility on the company and on the customer, right? And it's really only on the web, it seems to be that some people believe that that should not be the case. It should be the company's responsibility to allow a user to just not upgrade their software. And I don't believe that. I believe that a company should do what is sustainable for that company as much as possible. And if this turns out to be that you should support old browsers, then go for it. Then it should happen. But you shouldn't do that just because, if it doesn't make any sense. Because it is an extra cost for the company. It takes quite a lot more time, especially if you're going to do not just things such as building for old browsers, but also accessibility concerns. And the reality of the situation is that it's actually more sustainable at large, in my opinion at least, to have companies who are actually specializing in this sort of work, to actually make accessible websites and to actually produce websites that might work on really, really old browsers or in a third world country or something of this nature. Instead of trying to get the companies who are not really into that to make something that is perfect for everybody. Because if you're trying to make something for everybody, also that nobody's going to like it. That's at least how I feel about it. Have a great day.